Welcome to the Fathers of the Future podcast. My name is Luke Kayam, and I am joined by a good friend, a brother, a client, a tier one, as we like to call him here in the Fathers of the Future movement, Mr. Rusty Kennedy.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Yeah, this is
Long time coming.
Yeah, I was going to say, a few years in the making. We met through a mutual brother, Lawrence Jarvie, who's been on the podcast, and we connected right away, and we'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to throw some questions at you. I'm going to throw some keywords at you, and I'm just going to let us kind of go back and forth in fluid dialogue. But first, I'm gonna set it up like this. So when I met you, you were wearing a suit, maybe a tie, maybe not, but you did not have a smile quite that big, and you did not look as youthful as you do now, even though that's a few years ago. But ultimately, we started working together, and I want to set it up like this. When we started talking about time, scheduling, you have 4 kids. You are a professional in commercial real estate. You are married. You are on a bunch of boards. You do a lot of philanthropy work. Time was the biggest challenge. And I don't know who looked at who, but I looked at my schedule and my calendar, and I said, what about 4:45 a.m. live? And you were like, sure, great. And so for the past 3+ years, we've been meeting at 4:45 once a week. And I'm proud of it in a positive way, obviously, because you can't just roll out of bed and show up and coach. You can't just roll out of bed and show up and be coached. And so there's some pre-work that happens prior to when we get together. But I've told a lot of people over the years, when we, carve out a standing time, I have a client who's 4:45 a.m. And they usually say the same thing every time. Well, that's fine. That's a little too early for me. I don't want that, right? But your morning routine is unparalleled to a lot of people. Let's start there, especially for the guy, the dad, the father of 1, 2, maybe 3, the business professional who says they don't have time to do the work. Tell us about your morning routine.
Well, again, thanks for having me on, and thanks for all the help that you've provided over the years and friendship. It's been awesome. But the mornings, when I came and I was in that suit, and we met and talked. I didn't. You talked about showing up. I didn't really know what showing up was. I thought showing up was going through the motions. There's a quote. Learn how to live, not just be alive. And what I found in my morning routines was that if I could get the day started off right, and I get my time to journal, to pray, to hit a cold plunge, to get a workout in, that was really a area in the day that nobody else would bother me. And I know that if I want to get it done, I've got to get up and get after it. Now, there's probably some people that would rather meet with you at 10 p.m. Don't look for me at 10. I'm not going to be up. But, I've really enjoyed over the last 3 or 4 years, I call it chasing the sunrise. There have been very few sunrises that I miss. It's just it's a spiritual, it's a mental, it's just everything gets going in the right direction. And I feel like I then am playing offense in the day versus playing defense. And incredibly gracious to, adapt that into our schedule. Cause I know that's a big ask of you, but, you've been willing to do it. And I think it helps both of us. It's iron sharpens iron, and, we lean in. Before we got on today, we're planning tomorrow morning at 4:45. So here we go.
Yeah. It's always open, by the way. Yeah. It's not like anybody else wants it. So that time domain works really well. But yeah, you're right. It absolutely does. Iron sharpens iron. One of the things I love about our relationship and your commitment to excellence, and that's really, what I believe the title of this podcast will be. When I see you, when I think about you, when I talk about you in the community with other people, it is that commitment to being your best. You are the baseline for being coachable. And it's a question I ask in all of my interviews and discovery phases, right? Are you coachable? Are you willing to do the things that you don't want to do after a long time? And then are you willing to own them? And when you talk about cold plunge and sauna and morning routine and prayer, you've owned these protocols to make them yours, to maximize your time and efficiency, especially at home. Mm-hmm. So next piece of this is, what is it like having 4 kids at home, all under 11?
Under 10.
Under 10
well,
right
yes,
now.
under 11.
Yes, yeah.
My daughter, Avery, will be 11 at the end of August. So right now we have evens. Next year will be an odd year where we have 10, 8, 6, 4. And next year we'll obviously have 11, 9, 7, 5, if I did my math right. It's the most amazing thing. I never thought I'd have 4 kids. And I have to say that if you and I hadn't met a couple years ago and I would have had the wake-up call that I did, that I was going through the motions, I don't know that I could be a father of 4 kids. They deserve my best, and sometimes my best isn't great. But every day I am seeking to get better. I'm seeking counsel to approach it in a different way. Dealing with the challenges of a lot going on. How do I be present? How do I make sure I'm getting work done? There's just no room for kind of not showing up. And I'll kind of say that probably throughout this podcast is showing up has just been the biggest thing that I've continued to try to do is just show up, just get there and try to be there for the kids. And I'm super blessed with 4 healthy, amazing kids. They keep us on our toes for sure. But it's a challenge, but it's the most life-giving thing that I could ever imagine.
And when you talk about business and your time and being, maxed out with 168 hours in the week, you're in the commercial real estate space. And a lot of my commercial real estate bros, it's a large demographic. That genre of male clients that I work with, next to finance is probably number 1. And not to compare you to anybody else, but there is a lot of work that goes into your business. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of time under tension. There is a lot of back-to-back calls. And sometimes you have to step into a sick kid. And your amazing wife obviously supports that. But there are times where, you've never canceled, right? You've never texted me at 4:40 and said, hey, I can't make it. And again, not to compare you to anybody else I work with, there's a lot of flakes in life. And there's definitely a lot of flakes in your industry who just BS. Where does that standard of excellence and, more importantly, that integrity of being a professional, where was that built and designed in you?
I'm very fortunate to have very loving parents who raised me and instilled the work ethic, the drive. I would say 90+% of it positive. There's some stuff I'm still working through, but my dad was an amazing man and was very involved in the community, and I just grew up watching him work hard and do everything at his best. He was the one who would fly all night to get to a soccer game or to get back. He'd be in a deposition, but he'd race and make sure that my sister Jennifer and my brother Kevin and I were taken care of. So I think that I was very fortunate to have that as a baseline. And then, over time, I have to be very careful with saying yes, because that is something that, we've worked on. And when I'm saying yes, learning that I'm saying no to something else. So I have to watch that. And I have some people, my wife included, in my corner, kind of looking out for that. Because I will show up to everything, and I will do what I say, and I take a lot of pride in that. But sometimes that can get exhausting. So, having outlets and hobbies we've talked about, it's very helpful in that.
Your dad, Phoenician, multi-generational here in Arizona. I'm not sure how it was going to quite fit into the conversation, but one of the keynotes I had was your parents. Your dad passed away pretty fast from cancer. Mm-hmm. How did that affect you both in the short and the long term now, looking back when that happened and where you are now in that journey?
Yeah, watching my dad go through his battle with cancer was maybe the most empowering thing that I ever saw him do. And he did a lot of amazing things. His work accolades and in the community and service, but to see him navigate cancer and have his faith grow as exponentially as it did in a 2-year period. And every time I'd call to check in or go visit, he was just interested in me. And now I've, heard from his buddies, and he would call and they'd ask about him, and he'd turn it on. No, how's your son doing? And so watching that was incredibly empowering, and it really turbocharged my faith. And it also really opened my eyes to really thinking through how I was living. Did I enjoy the life that I had? Was I creating the life and again, showing up in the way that I wanted to? And unfortunately and fortunately, in one, I wasn't. I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to. I wasn't living the life that I wanted and that I believe God has planned for me. And sometimes it takes something like losing a parent or a sibling or somebody close to you to have that wake-up call. And I don't know that I think I would have learned that, but watching him and his faith, I think, really grounded me in making sure that when I was showing up, it was for the right reasons. It was for my faith. It was for being the best human that I can be, versus just trying to navigate, okay, how do I become successful and et cetera. But, at age 40, both mom and dad gone, you can attest to it. It's a interesting place where, for me, it felt like my whole life was a little bit on shifting sand. And I needed the rock, and that was my, quote unquote rock bottom. And I've just been building one block at a time since then.
Have you had those moments? I know for me early on as a father with my kids, I would have those Sunday afternoons where I would want to call my mom, and it would strike me in certain moments of like, oh man, I felt that. I felt that energy wanting to, pick up the phone and dial. Have you had moments like that? And maybe not as many with your mom because she passed when you were so young. You were 4 or 5?
2. 1.5.
You're right. And you have an amazing, stepmom that's still in your life today, or a mom in general. Mm-hmm. But have you had those moments in your career or in your, times of having kids where it just hits you that, you can't make that call?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. And I think where it comes up for me, music speaks to my heart. I really enjoy music, and a song will come on and I'll think of Dad. What's interesting though, I don't necessarily experience the wanting to call him. I just know that he's there. I mean, I can still hear his voice. Rusty, there's no right way to do the wrong thing, and all the different things where those life lessons. And that's what I would love to leave for my kids, is the why behind why we do things a certain way. And as I've matured and grown up, started to understand, okay, though that's what Dad was talking about. Or, hey, I want to call him and talk about this. Well, I know the answer. The answer's right there. And but yeah, I'd love to. There's a song, One More Day with You. Scars in Heaven is the name of the song. And what I'd get for one more day. Yeah, do I want to go to a baseball game? I would have loved for him to meet Dayton and spend more time with my kids. But we know he's there. I know I'm going to see him again. And he impacted me, and he impacted so many people. And I do have to comment, my mom, Dawn, she jumped into a tough situation. I mean, my sister was, 7, I was 5, when mom and dad got married, and she raised us. She ended up adopting us, a couple years later. And how fortunate am I to have 3 great parents, let alone just 2. And what she walked into and has just been a rock. She's as strong as anybody I know, and I'm very grateful for that. And that's, it's sometimes more awkward for other people. Is mom or no? She's my mom, and that's been really cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The accuracy of your sport, golf, University of Texas. You don't talk about it much. I don't ever bring it up. I played golf with you one time and was like, holy shit. That is a smooth swing right there. What did that do for you in your professional world and in your ability to stay calm and relaxed under pressure?
I didn't realize it at the time. I would say the biggest thing that it taught me was how to communicate to professionals, because I would get dropped off at the golf course when I was 10 or 11, and I'd play, pick up golf games with 35-year-olds. And so I had to learn how to communicate. I asked them questions about what they did and be curious. Dad was big on yes sir, no sir, and I'm grateful for that. Golf taught me so much about myself, about pushing myself, making sacrifices, and it also, I got to tour not the world, but I saw some pretty awesome places and had some really cool experiences. We won 3 Big 12 championships. We competed at NCAAs, finished 3rd, 4th, and 9th. It was such a great run at Texas, and then after getting into the real estate world, I used to get invited to play a lot, and obviously timing wise, I didn't always have time to play, but it opened a lot of doors. And I think there's also an element of it's an easy conversation starter, and not that it. Everybody likes golf, but there's typically a common theme around golf, or at least a common interest. So,
but the buzz or the bug, you don't have it anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's the part that really amazes me, right? Where it's like somebody's like, "Hey, you want to buy a foursome for a charity golf tournament?" I'm like, "Yes, absolutely. I'll bring." Nope. I know he's probably not the one to ask. But you've, again, part of that discipline, right, is just, it's a part of your life, but it's not your entire identity.
Yeah, and I got to a point after college where it was my identity, and I think I'm glad I went through that experience. I think that's helped me in the business world. But what was great about golf is it's an imperfectible, you can't perfect it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people spend their whole life trying. And I think that tenacity and that drive and work ethic and commitment, I think is what I carried from it. I still enjoy golf, but there's other things that are just more important to me right now. My hope is that, one or all of my kids, hope you're listening, catch on to golf, and maybe that's the way I get back into it. But right now, for a season, I'm just kind of letting it be what it is, and that's a fun game that I get to go play every now and again.
Your relationship with the sport, looking back, healthy, unhealthy, with how your dad was raising you, and it got you to obviously high-level Division I and beyond. But if you were to pass that on to your kids, would you see it as healthy, unhealthy?
I took it to a place, and part of that's my wiring and my makeup and immaturity at the time. It became who I was, and so for me, it became unhealthy. Where if I played well, I was worthy and worthwhile and loved, and if I didn't, I was unworthy and unloved, and that is not a place to be. Now, if my faith was where it was, if my habits, if my commitment to excellence was today or then where it is today, who knows? But that's the good news is I don't look back and regret anything. The ups, the downs, the all arounds help craft me into who I am today, and I'm proud of that. I made it through some challenging times, some bad decisions, some all arounds, but I don't look back and say, man, I wish I would have done it different. I did the best with what I had at the time, and so it's all about moving forward.
Yeah, clear. You live an alcohol-free life. In your industry, in your circle of influence, and in a lot of the philanthropy work that you do, guys do not follow that same protocol. You and I do. You specifically, it was something that you didn't even really think about. You just acted. And in that, you had some aha moments of how your relationship may have been. But you don't drink. What has that done for you and the professional out there who in your business space is so used to the 4-hour dinner after the 15-hour workday?
Right.
You're able to just bypass it, right? What has that done for you and your life, let alone your productivity and performance?
It's done a lot. And I'll start there, but I think the biggest thing for me was I didn't realize the barrier it was putting in between me and God and the impact that it was having on my faith. It kept me from going all in and being fully committed. And the trickle down of that is never ending. If I'm not all in there and connected, then I can't go all in with my wife. I can't go all in with my kids. I can't go all in at work. So stripping out what for me, and I didn't realize it at the time, I stopped thinking, okay, I'll give it a little breather, and just never picked it back up. But in that, realized that I wasn't dealing with some hurts and pains and wasn't dealing with some things that needed to be addressed. And had I not, I don't think I would have had the clarity to make some of the life changes that needed to happen for me to be the man I am today. And look, what's awesome about this work that you and I have committed ourselves to is getting a little bit better every day. Is there's no end to it. It's not like, okay, if I get to this, then I'm going to rest. It's invigorating. It's exciting. How can I improve today? And I think that freed me up in the business world to do some things that I'd been thinking about for a long time, and really going all in and chasing some dreams that I had, and not settling with, oh well, it's comfortable. We talk a lot about how do we make ourselves uncomfortable? How do we get comfortable in discomfort? The cold plunge, the breath work, the things that we do. It's being in meetings that are very challenging and delivering the message that I have to do. I mean, that's basically what I do for a living is, I deliver great messages and I deliver hard messages. But, being alcohol free is something that I thought I had a lot of perceptions about what it would look like. And once I leaned into the discomfort, it really just became easier and easier. But those first 18 months were really hard. I had to, relearn my interactions both socially and at work, but I haven't found a reason to go back. And I also, it's allowed me to get time back to do things that I want to do versus things that I felt like I had to do. And that line was very blurry when I was drinking. I just thought that this is what I do, and I just kind of got into habits without really knowing why. And for me to take a step back, it really just peeled the onions from my eyes of what do you want to do? Why, if I'm doing something, I want to be doing it versus, oh, well, that's just what I'm supposed to be doing.
It was a default just from life in college and sports and all the different groups you're associated with. 445 would not happen, right, for either one of us if we were, still on that path. We have a mutual friend.
Maybe on the back end.
We'll talk Phoenix Open in a minute. But my son comes into town, San Diego State, freshman year. He brings 12 dudes with him. I'm waking up at 3:45 to hit Camelback, and I walk downstairs, and there's 4 of them still awake at 4 o'clock as they're getting ready to go charge the 16th hole and get prime spot. None of that happens, right? But we have a mutual friend and a client who's been on this show that talked about when he decided to make that decision, what it did for him and the empowerment. And for him, possibly different than our relationship, but he had lost Mondays for a few years, right? So his drinking went from Thursday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday, waking up feeling like such crap that he was not able to perform on Monday. And you do the compound factor of that over time, days and weeks and months and years, and you start to lose so much time that you either realize, I got to do something different, or it gets a hold of you. And so that's the piece of it that I think for, the young Rusty Kennedy out there who's just getting into his profession or possibly even in commercial real estate, does not have to follow the path that so many of his associates have. And although you might feel like, you're missing something, you're really not.
Something you and I talk a lot about is authenticity. What's interesting about the way that alcohol impacted me was I got really good at faking it, and I could wake up early and I would fake it through the day. And I was proud of that I would answer the bell. But there was also the realization of, do I want to live my life faking it through the day, or do I want to live my life, kind of all in and leaning in? And, with that comes feeling emotions that I hadn't felt in a while. So learning how to deal with those. And, somebody told me early on, you can't choose what emotions you turn off. So to experience that joy, you've got to experience the sadness and the hurt. And I remember sitting in your office a couple times, just like an emotional wreck, trying to navigate that. But I had a few moments, but one was, I'm faking it through a Saturday with my kids. Like, that math didn't add up in my head. And that was when, one of the many times that I was kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of different ways that alcohol can impact you. I would just encourage, if somebody's given it thought, just go for it and try it. And I think over time you just see how much opportunity comes with it. And one thing that's interesting is what I miss out in the bars, hanging out late at client events, things like that. What's interesting is how many decision makers are in the gym at 5:30. I mean, there's other ways to make relationships. I've had to get more creative, and there are some things that I'm going to miss out on. But if I'm creative and take a client for a hike, that's a lot more memorable than sharing a six pack. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a beautiful thing to witness. And again, understanding your background a little bit more than most of our viewers or listeners, Phoenix Open, largest drinking event in the world, largest drinking golf event in the world. You are a Thunderbird, you're on the board, you're there every day, all day leading up to it. You just finished your third, maybe fourth Phoenix Open without drinking?
Fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did the math on
and
that
you go home feeling great,
Yeah.
right? But tell us a little bit about that event and what it means to you to be a part of that organization that does such great work in the community.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, native Phoenician, and I'm very proud of that. I am one of the biggest drum bangers for Phoenix. I was very fortunate to be born and raised here. I left for school. I went to University of Virginia for a year, transferred to Texas, because I knew that I wanted to come back. I knew I wanted to raise a family here. And as we've grown, part of that desire has been, I want my kids to experience that if they want to come back here. And so being a part of the Thunderbirds and being part of philanthropy, being part of the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority, really the catalyst behind that is I just want Phoenix to continue to grow in a healthy way and be a great place for people to live. I'm so fortunate that I grew up here. And the work that the Thunderbirds do, we're going to have a big announcement for the annual give again this year, but we're over to $250 million given to local charities over our existence, with really a lot of runway to go. And we provide a great product. I mean, having the Waste Man, the WM Phoenix Open in our backyard is something that people fly from all over the world to come see. We have it here. We have it here every year. And the relationships, the people that I've met through the organization, the people that give their time, the 8,000 volunteers that come out, it's pretty special. And from a attendance perspective, it's like throwing 5 Super Bowls in back-to-back days. So it's been a point of pride. My dad was a Thunderbird. He ran the Phoenix Open. He was a tournament chairman and big chief, and I grew up around it, and I was so proud of him for what he did, and now getting to be a part of the organization has been a huge honor. And hopefully leaving the seat better. This is my last active year, and hopefully leaving the seat better than I found it.
Yeah, awesome. So what's next for you in that space of giving back, of being an active member of your community, your city, your state where you grew up, born and raised, and you have so much lineage and heritage here? What's next for you on that front?
Yeah. So it's interesting because the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority board position will be winding down here along with the Thunderbirds' big time commitment. So being part of the Phoenix Children's Hospital Mental Health Board has been a huge blessing and light. I mean, just seeing what is being done for mental health for the children and how underserved that is. But I'm going to do something that I haven't done before, and I'm going to pause and really figure out what the reallocation looks like. I ran for the SRP board unsuccessfully, but my heart behind that was this community needs water and power to continue to attract the jobs that are going to continue to help us grow, that are going to attract people to move here, companies to move here, and to have a level-headed person who's in the business world on that board, I thought was something that was really important for our community, and I hope that continues to be something that I look into. Where does the community need help? And I also encourage, my friends and our demographic, look, our time is now. I mean, it's up to us to now take the baton and to protect and preserve and grow what has been granted to us. I mean, we stand on incredible shoulders of the 100 years before us, and what are we going to do with it? So as I think through that next phase, I don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be something, and I hope I'm able to have the wisdom and discernment to go full speed ahead when the right thing pops up, but not actively seeking that right now.
Understandable with 4 kids under 10 at the house and everything you do personally and professionally. We talk about legacy a lot, and we talk about it in a very empowering way, right? Not in this sort of sad victim mentality, but we live our absolute best every single day, knowing that we're not in charge of when is our time. And so I used to ask this question a lot early on in this podcast. We're now going on our 6th year. We're over 120 episodes, and I think about having you on here. You've seen it since practically its inception, and asking you this question is, what do you want that to be, but not in a general way? I'd like you to give each of your kids a shout out and just let them know, what is it about them that truly tugs at your heart that you want them to personally know about you?
Yeah, I would do anything for them. So Avery's 10, Emma's 8, Isla's 6, Dayton's 4. I love that they are all so uniquely created. And Allison and I, my wife Allison and I, we often talk about, same environment, same genes, and so different. And I love that. And I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, there's no handbook for parenting. And so some of this is just, fixing the plane as it's flying. But for them to love God, to have the freedom to love themselves, and to know that they are loved just because they are. If they can rest in that, and if they're leaving for school and they have the confidence in those 3 things, then I think Allison and I have done a really good job with them. What do I want them to know about me? I want them to know that I was willing to make mistakes and learn and grow. And I would want them to know that I would do anything for them. I would do anything for Allison. I would do anything for my family and friends. And I think they do know that. I think they know it's not always perfect. I do work a lot. But they know that Dad's going to be there. And I think at that age it's hard, but as they continue to grow, knowing that I'm there for them, and that I'm willing to walk the walk, that I'm encouraging them and hoping that they will follow. Because 3 or 4 years ago, I would have talked a big game. It would have sounded great. But if they were watching me, I wasn't living it. But I just go back to, if we can introduce or help foster their relationship with Christ, and have a love for themselves, a humble love. But I think as a kid, at least, I struggled with humility and self-love. And I thought those were at odds, but they're really one and the same. And then to know that they're loved, that Mom and Dad love them. We're not perfect. We're far from it. It's something that I love listening to the Camille podcast, and Cannon. But being able to go to them and say, you know what, Dad didn't do that right. Or is there anything that Dad could be doing different? Leaning into some of those uncomfortable questions, and really being ready to hear maybe not the answer that I want, but to do something about it.
I'm going to close out like this. Impact over influence. You've had a major impact in my life from the professional standpoint of seeing what it means to not just show up, but to show up as your best self in the workplace. You have definitely had a mark on my son. Once he got to know you and did a little bit of volunteer work at the Open, he said, and the young heads will know this, right? Rusty's him. He is him, right? Giving you that accolade of like, he's got his stuff together. He's got his priorities straight. He doesn't BS. He doesn't waste a lot of time or energy. He gets right to the point, and he still does it with a smile on his face. He's not short. He's not trying to cut corners. And that's a big one for me in not just the men that I work with, but the people who I associate with and who I introduce to other people, right? The tier ones, right?
Yeah.
Just from a professional standpoint. And of course, all the things you do on a personal level as a father and as a husband. But you definitely have helped me sharpen my sword as a coach over the years to show up and continue to show up and be relentless in that pursuit of greatness. Awesome. And so I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and just thank you for all you've done for me and my family. It is going to change the legacy that I leave, hopefully in many, many years. But the work that we've done together and the impact you've had is going to live on for generations. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Rusty Kennedy, Luke Kayam, this is the Fathers of the Future podcast. All we ask in return is that you simply pay this forward, send it to somebody you know, send it to your commercial real estate brother who needs to hear the impact of this man and his mission in life. See you soon. Peace.